Paper beats rock, but scissors beats the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. The podcast that proves recycling stuff doesn't work. He tried to set ants on fire with a magnifying glass last night. It's Medicare expert Doug Jones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. As my Canadian nephew, Drew McMillan, may have told you, this is Doug Jones. I'm your Medicare expert or specialist, if English is a point of contention for you. And I am here to help you learn about Medicare and help you feel really, really confident about Medicare. How do I do that? Well, I introduce you to my series of books on Medicare. It's an amazing thing to me that I was able to create Medicare tutorials in an interesting format and a format that's not overbearing. So when you decide that you're going to learn more about Medicare, you might want to go to Amazon.com, which is where almost all books in America are sold right now. And you might want to either put my name in, Douglas B. Jones, or you might want to search for the books that I have available to help you get through Medicare. One of them is Medicare for the Lazy Man 2025, and that tells the whole story of Medicare, start to finish. Here's the good, the bad, and the ugly about Medicare, and it is the complete story without any of the superfluous information that a lot of people like to throw in. They like to tell you the history of Medicare, and boy, President Truman was the first person to be covered by Medicare long after he was president. He and his wife were handed Medicare cards, probably numbers 1 and 2, and all of that kind of stuff. None of that's in my book. It's all business, with a few snide remarks thrown in to keep it interesting. That book sells for $11 in paperback, but if you want to buy the Kindle version, it's only $4.50 at Amazon. If you want to buy the Audible and just listen to my dulcet tones, that's roughly $6. I'm not sure exactly because I'm not consulted on that price. And if you have a person that you want to give a gift to, a meaningful gift that will be treasured and remembered forever, there's a hardcover version of that book, and that's a $25 item at Amazon, but it's fantastic. And it frankly would serve as a shield if you were attacked by, foreign agents. And I'm not sure it would ward off bullets, but it'll probably save you from arrows or spears. Now, the next book that came along, which is on the shelf right next to it, is entitled Medicare Drug Plans, an easy, maybe it's a simple DIY guide. DIY stands for do it yourself. If you are going to be in Medicare and you're going to be covered by a Medicare supplement, which is what I always recommend to my clients, then you're going to need a freestanding drug plan. Now, depending on whether or not you take a whole bunch of prescription medications, it might be difficult for somebody to recommend a drug plan that isn't really kind of a bad idea for you. Some of the drug plans out there are hugely expensive, and the way to do your best drug plan selection is the scientific way. The way I do it is I go to the government website, I put in your location, which is your zip code, I put in your list of drugs, and I put in the stores where you want to have your prescriptions filled, including mail order if you want. And at the end of that process, all of the drug plans available in your area are listed in order of your out-of-pocket cost, from cheap to hugely expensive. And usually it's about 14 drug plans. So then I I actually print out a side-by-side comparison of the 3 cheapest plans, send it to my hope-to-be new client, and I say, here is the subject or the plan for you right here on the left, the cheapest of all the plans. And that's the one you ought to buy. Well, when you buy my book, you can do it yourself, and you can do it over and over again. You can do it in in the fall open enrollment time to make sure that your drug plan chosen for the following year is the correct one for you. And it's all available to you for $10 in paperback or for $3 as a Kindle. And finally, the newest addition to the library, Medicare for the Lazy Man, Bare Bones. This is less than 20 pages of instruction about how and why to sign up for Medicare and to sign up for your Medicare supplement plan, and it points you in the direction of the drug plan selection information. This book in paperback is $4.60, in Kindle is $1, and I just recorded the Audible files yesterday. I don't know what that's going to be priced at because I'm not consulted by Amazon when that price is created, but it will be as low as possible. So I want Medicare for the Lazy Man, Bare Bones, to be your final resort when it comes to the quick, easy, down and dirty advice about your Medicare enrollment. And speaking of down and dirty, we got Randy Carson sitting across the screen. He's got a spilled beer on his shirt. That seems like a waste of a good Guinness. Yeah, it looks like you're somebody let go of it in midair. What's going
I
on that
know.
shirt? What does it say? What's your?
It says it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Oh, well, that's factual information.
Well, as a matter of fact, let's see. It's 11 o'clock here. 11 plus. Oh, yeah. It's Ireland. It's drinking time because Ireland is 8 hours ahead.
Don't they pretty much consider all day drinking time?
Well, yes, that's true.
Well, I mean, it's just that you told me specifically that when you go to a pub in Ireland, you don't slug it down and order another one immediately like we
No.
do in the States. You nurse it for a length of time and you socialize and you find out what's going on
Yeah.
in the neighborhood.
Well, that is critically why everybody calls them pubs, but ultimately the official term, full term is public house.
Oh, yes, yes.
So that really, in terms of going to a pub in Ireland, it's clearly not about the drinking. It's all about meeting your mates there and having a good visit, and obviously there's some beers sprinkled in there, but
Sure.
I kid you not, a full-blooded Irishman can make a pint of Guinness last for hours.
Does he
And
cons does he does he get concerned about the temperature?
no, because over there it's all room temperature. No, I shouldn't say it's all room temperature, but most of the barrels of
Yeah,
beer I mean, most of these pubs are, hundreds of years old.
right.
I mean the good ones. So anyway, the barrels of Guinness or other beer, if you should have one, are
Yeah.
stored down in the basement. So they're cool. It's basement cool, but it's certainly not cold. So a
Wow.
Guinness can last you for freaking days.
Now I got to tell you, 50 damn years ago, I was having conversations like this with my friends that came back from the army who went to Germany instead of Vietnam. And I would say, how is it drinking warm beer? And they would say, you know something, warm beer is better than no beer.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about that.
But I didn't realize that 50 years later, we were, going to have a conversation about the fact that there's still not cold beer, not cooled off beer being served in public houses in a modern European city.
Yeah. Oh, it's basement cool.
No, that's not really my idea of.
And in reality, I don't mind it that way. Over the years, I've gotten used to it, and I still have probably the one memorable event in my life in terms of drinking Guinness in Ireland was we were meeting at a bar owned by a good friend of mine. His sister owned the bar, and one of the locals came up to me, and I wish someday I'm going to take a class on how to mimic an Irish accent, but he said, I've never seen anyone drink beer so fast as you. Because I was doing the American way, as soon as you
Uh,
finish it, you go after another. Well, they had never seen anybody do that.
so they were all standing there with their mouths hanging open in
Yeah,
awe.
Yeah, and apparently I had raised the the in terms the income of that bar by several fold in one night.
Oh man. Well, I got to tell you, if it's not cold, I'm probably not going to be that excited about, slamming it down. I'm probably going to be sipping on it, hoping to get used to the warm or the, basement temperature
Yeah, yeah.
quality of the beer. The other thing is, though, if you're buying a bunch of drinks like that because you're going through the beer pretty quickly, you're tipping. Are you tipping every time or no?
No,
What's the protocol there?
there is no tipping in Ireland.
Oh, okay. So they would not be giant fans of the Trump administration for their no tax on
No.
tips stance.
No, and in reality, a good well, all barmen over there are either owners or professional barmen. They actually consider it rude to try to tip them.
Uh-huh. Like we would consider, as we tip somebody, we're considering them to be a lower status
Yeah,
individual, and
it'd
they're,
be like it'd be like going into your doctor and saying, "Here's a tip, doc."
yeah, here's $20.
Yeah, no, they consider that totally. I mean, they'll take it and they won't kick you out of the bar, but they'll say, "Oh yeah, this guy doesn't know the first clue about how to live in Ireland."
Yeah, because they're professionals and they have
Yeah,
pride in their work.
and they get paid salaries. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like they're living off tips. They get a good salary for doing what they're doing.
Well, very good. Well, I think we ought to, get to work here so that the audience doesn't feel as though they got ripped off.
Well,
And
plus we got to get the Christmas fund going here. So I'm going to go ahead and mute out and let's get the advertising rolling forward.
okay, let's do that. And we're going to start off with our normal segment, which is Medicare Advantage Minute. And the headline of the article that I have for our Medicare Advantage Minute for today is Civil Monetary Penalties Against Medicare Advantage and Medicare Drug Plans Are Rising, according to government data. Civil monetary penalties are for improperly delaying or denying coverage. And Randy's come up with all kinds of acronyms that allude to the delay or the denial of coverage. They're hitting members with higher cost sharing than allowed under regulations for Medicare Advantage plans. And there are other problems. And the civil and monetary penalties that have been assessed against insurance companies for doing this have surpassed 3 million so far this year. I don't know that that's going to make a dent in their profit margins, but it's interesting to note that we're doing something. Our government is trying to do something about the flagrant violations that have been occurring with Medicare Advantage rules. Insurers that are offering Medicare Advantage and Medicare prescription drug plans were fined more money in the first 4 months of this year, 2025, than in the past 4 years combined, according to a healthcare dive analysis of government data. Well, that's interesting. Apparently, the prior administration wasn't that concerned about these infractions. Fines against Medicare plans for bad behavior are on the rise. I think that's refreshing to hear. The government cautioned that the data should not be used to draw conclusions about larger issues in Medicare after releasing a report this week summarizing enforcement action taken against plan sponsors in Medicare Part C, which is another name for privatized Medicare Advantage insurance, and Part D, which is Medicare's prescription drug benefit. The government did not respond to questions as to why financial penalties are increasing by the time that this information was published. However, the size of a fine mostly depends upon how many enrollees were impacted by a violation, suggesting that more Medicare Advantage and drug plan beneficiaries are in plans that failed to comply with government standards. So the lion's share of the penalties this year stems from one $2 million fine against insurer Centene. They own, among other things, the WellCare drug plans. And Centene was fined for overcharging enrollees above their annual maximum out-of-pocket limits 4 years prior to the fine being imposed. Since Medicare Advantage is under a microscope right now, research shows that the program, which was created in the late 1990s as an alternative to traditional Medicare coverage, costs the government more than traditional Medicare. while restricting key services for enrollees. Now, let's go through that again. Medicare Advantage plans cost the government more than traditional Medicare, and they also restrict key services for the members that they have enrolled. The government administrator, Dr. Oz, says he's interested in cracking down on practices like upcoding that drive inappropriate Medicare Advantage spending. In May, the agency significantly expanded its Medicare Advantage audit program to review all eligible contracts moving forward. Instead of reviewing a discrete portion of plans and fast track audits from older plan payment years, the agency did not share a quantitative analysis of how frequently improper actions were happening. However, it found instances of plans inappropriately delaying or denying medication requests. They were limiting access to drugs, running substantial internal compliance programs, and not tracking maximum out-of-pocket limits, resulting in plan members paying more in cost sharing than the plan is supposed to allow them to pay. Last year, the government also sanctioned two different insurance companies. One was a United Healthcare subsidiary that operates across a range of states, and the other was a Centene subsidiary in Missouri for failing to spend at least 85% of premium dollars on their members' medical care. The government suspended enrollment in those plans. Despite criticism of Medicare Advantage, more people are enrolling in the privatized Medicare plans than ever. Medicare Advantage enrollment surpassed that of traditional Medicare for the first time last year. So people haven't been kicked in the teeth enough, I guess, and it's going to take a little more. I think one of the most recent political statements came. It was a quote from an old time political commentator who said, well, in a democracy, the people should get what they vote for, good and hard. And I think that's going to apply to people who buy Medicare Advantage plans, as well as to some people in New York City who are trying to decide who's going to be their mayor going forward. If they decide that they want that communist, the avowed communist, to be their mayor, then they deserve what they get, what they voted for, good and hard. Okay, your Medicare Benefits 2025. That's a massive government book. If you had the interest in what Medicare is going to cover and how much it's going to cover various treatments, you could download that book from the government website. You could tell your printer to crank that dude out and, throw a couple of trees into the chipper, because it's going to be quite a stack of paper. But I have taken it upon myself to do that service for you. So today we're going to talk about osteoporosis drugs. This is what the big book of Medicare treatments, otherwise known as Your Medicare Benefits 2025, is going to it's going to tell us about how Medicare would treat osteoporosis drug claims. So Part A and Part B of Medicare both help pay for osteoporosis injectable drugs and visits by a home health nurse to give you the injections if you meet these conditions. Number one, you're a woman with osteoporosis who meets the criteria for Medicare home health services. Earlier in this book, we discussed home health services. Number two, if you have a bone fracture that a doctor or other healthcare provider certifies is related to postmenopausal osteoporosis. And number three, if you have a healthcare provider who certifies that you cannot give yourself the injection, or you cannot learn how to give yourself the injection, and your family members or caregivers are unable and unwilling to give you the injection. So what are the costs for this? Well, in most cases, after you meet the Part B deductible, which is $257 this year, you're going to pay up to 20% of the Medicare approved amount for covered Part B prescription drugs. Now, if you've purchased a Medicare supplement from yours truly, that is not going to be entirely true, at least not in all cases. So this information always assumes that the person is too slow to consider purchasing a Medicare supplement plan. Moving on, your coinsurance amount can change depending on the drug's price. You might pay a lower coinsurance amount for certain Part B covered drugs and biologicals that you get in a doctor's office, a pharmacy, or outpatient setting if their prices have gone up faster than the rate of inflation. That's one benchmark measurement the government imposed over the last few years. The specific drugs and potential savings change every quarter. No wonder drug plans are so confusing. And the final little note here about costs is you pay nothing for the home health nurse to inject the drug. Well, if somebody in my family ever needed that service and I had to vouch for the fact that everybody in the house was unable to learn how to do it, that's what my position would be, just to get the home healthcare nurse to come in and do the injection for us. For more information on this wonderful topic, you want to go to medicare.gov/coverage/osteoporosis-drugs. And for that purpose, you will find everything you need to know. I'm just looking for the next article that we're going to be recording. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be well, it's going to be a surprise. I'm just going to leave it like that. It's going to be a surprise and mercifully short at that. What else do we have to talk about today? What to know about rabies? I've got an article here that came from Concealed Carry magazine. This is a magazine that it's like you join a club if you are a concealed carrier and you're doing it right and you're doing everything you should be and you are still given legal problems if you have to defend yourself. Your local constabulary is trying to throw you in the can for having defended yourself with a firearm or defended yourself against animals. They're running a series of articles about animals that attack humans and how and what's likely to happen on the legal front once one has dispatched an animal that was misbehaving. So they provide legal defense services, and often their stories end with a very cautionary lesson. But in any event, so that's Concealed Carry magazine. And I ran across an article about rabies, and living out in the country, being that close to Mother Nature, we always heard about rabies when I was a kid, and I especially read about the problem they had when Louis Pasteur came up. I think it was Louis Pasteur that came up with the rabies vaccine. Everybody poo-pooed him and said that's not going to work, and it turned out that it did work on somebody who had been bitten by a rabid dog. And you don't hear much about rabies anymore, so I thought I'd read this article and share it with everyone to let them know that rabies is still out there. So the article is entitled "What to Know About Rabies." Rabies is one of the most deadly viruses known to humankind. This particular doctor should know. He's got a degree in virology and microbiology. He's considered one of the foremost rabies experts in the United States. He was even involved in a joint effort with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and aircraft from Canada to eradicate canine rabies in Texas. He was even involved in a joint effort. Oh, okay. So anyway, the effort was to try to eradicate canine rabies in Texas. We dropped these little dog food baits that had vaccine inside of them, he said. And when a coyote or a fox or something like that ate them, it would spray on their tonsils and actually made them immune to rabies. Thanks to modern medicine, rabies is highly treatable, and the number of potential exposures is relatively low. As a result, the U.S. typically sees only 1 to 3 human rabies deaths every year. Many of these deaths occur because people are exposed without realizing it. For example, a rabid bat could fly into a child's bedroom at night, bite the child, and fly out before being discovered. Well, not in my house because we have screens on the windows, and if we don't have the AC on, then the screens, I'm sure, would do a job of protecting the child from that rabid bat. Or someone might reach into a woodpile and mistake a relatively painless bat bite for a scratch or a nick. An untreated case of rabies begins with general flu-like symptoms that become increasingly bizarre as the disease progresses. Some people are very sensitive to any kind of wind, and a fan will make them mad. A fan blowing on them will make them angry. They can be totally mentally checked out and seemingly almost delirious. They might start rambling about something that you would never expect them to. Sounds like some of the conversations I have on a daily basis. Once rabies enters the brain and the nervous system, it begins to shut down organs, leading to a coma and ultimately death. Fortunately, the effectiveness of the rabies vaccine in humans is close to 100%. Let's say something crazy happened, like a coyote chewed on your leg and there's an open wound. Well, first thing, I'm going to not allow that to happen if I'm able to stop it. You'd get the vaccine, and they would also give you the human rabies immune globulin. It's HRIG is their their acronym for it, where they do these little baby inoculations all around the wound. This two-pronged approach works by having HRIG, that's the globulin, bind up any virus in the bite area, neutralizing it, while the vaccine stimulates the immune system to produce antibodies. This doctor explained that the window for treatment varies depending on the bite's location and how much of the virus entered the body. Typically, the treatment window is 10 to 14 days. The typical public health message is, if you even have a suspicion of being bitten by a rabid animal, you need to let someone know. Typically, your physician and other experts would be the ones to notify. And if you can't find the animal to test it, then you may very well need the vaccine, because most domestic animals in the United States are vaccinated. The wildlife is what poses the biggest threat of rabies transmission to humans. Bites from rabid mammals are the most common way for the disease to spread, with bats being the most dangerous. If you ever see a downed bat or a sick-acting bat, you absolutely want to avoid it. You should call your animal control center in your county or city, or even the police or sheriff, to get you the help you need to get that bat captured and sent in for testing. For terrestrial animals, high-risk species include skunks, raccoons, coyotes, foxes, and bobcats. You really want to watch for aggressive behavior, or maybe they're out in the daytime and they're nocturnal and should only be out at night. If that's happening, you absolutely want to take that as a precaution that something is wrong with them. As you would with a bat, you should avoid the animal and contact animal control as soon as possible. So I remember being a kid and hearing about these painful abdominal injections for people who were bitten by an animal and they didn't know if it was rabid or not, or they knew it was rabid and they needed to have a course of treatment. It seemed like they had to have many, many abdominal shots that were hugely painful in order to ward off the possibility of rabies. Do you have any interesting rabies stories, Randy?
I do.
Tell me one.
I do. There is one animal in the world, there may be others, but one animal that comes to mind that is immune to rabies.
So one animal in your world.
One animal in my world is immune to rabies. And
Uh-huh.
you know what it is?
I do not know.
A possum.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Well,
possums.
they don't really have much of a defense against rabid animals, so it's not like they're
Possums
gonna.
they're immune to rabies, and you know why?
No.
Because their body temperature is so low, as in compared to other well,
Right. Like
as in
98.6 for
compared
us.
yeah. So anyway, the possum's body temperature is so low that the rabies virus can't live at that temperature.
Wow. Normally you'd think a really high temperature would be dangerous for a virus. But in this case, you're saying it's because the body temperature of a possum is low and they're
Yeah,
always sleeping. I mean, they're
yeah.
pretty lazy animals.
Playing possum, that's what
Yeah,
they're
there you
doing.
go. And they do it successfully. Well, I'll tell you, we had a scary thing one time. We had this big estate, and it was my parents who bought it, and then they died. And so while I was living there, getting it ready to sell, a car drove in through the big gates. I could see it 2/10 of a mile away, so like 1,000 feet away. A strange car drove in the entrance to the driveway and then just stopped, and some girl got out, and she's running around on this very expansive lawn that we had. And I didn't know what the heck she was up to, but frankly, she didn't belong in our property at all. And running around like crazy, she could have been considered to be rabid and acting strangely. So I went outside, and I had to, she was on the other side of the creek, and so I yelled, what can you help you, or what are you up to? And she said, a raccoon was hit on the street outside your driveway, and it ran in through your gates, and I want to find it and help it. Now, this is a teenage girl who had not been told that a raccoon that was hit by a car is going to attack and kill her if she ever gets close to it. And it doesn't even matter if it has rabies or not. It's still going to determine that she's a threat because it's already wounded, and
Right.
it's not going to behave in a rational manner. Raccoons are very nightmarish anyway, and this girl had no clue. She just wanted to help Mother Nature, and she wanted to help the poor raccoon. I had to yell and scream and swear at her to get back in her car and go away.
Yeah.
But I know that I saved her life that day.
Well, one more, not a raccoon story, but one more rabies story.
Okay.
I'll check on this for sure. But if my memory serves me, once a person gets full blown rabies, it's in their brain, it's doing doing its thing.
Yep.
I don't think, to my knowledge, there's only one I think I read it not too long ago. There's only one person in the world that has ever recovered from that.
Well,
Once
that wouldn't surprise
the
me.
rabies has full blown in their brain, all that stuff. I'll look it up. Maybe we can share that information next time. But
Sure.
it was quite a deal on the internet not too long ago that this woman actually recovered from rabies.
Well, okay. I'd be interested in hearing about that. In the meantime, I'm going to be very interested in hearing your closing comments for this
Bye.
episode.
Oh. So anyway, here you go. Grab your pencil, people. It's very important to do this. Write down this email address, dbj@mlmmailbag.com. You got that down? Okay, let's move forward. Don't forget, Doug is licensed in every state of the union to help you with your Medicare supplement planning. Check us out at the website, medicareforthelazyman.com. In your wanderings through the wilds of the internet, drop a review for us on the content. We enjoy it, as well as we need the numbers. And last but certainly not least, thank you for joining us today. You could have been anywhere else, doing anything else, with anybody else, and you weren't. You were with us, which is exactly where we love to have you. But just so I'd let you know, you have just spent about 32 and a half minutes with Doug Jones, the anti-insurance insurance guy, originally from Oklahoma. No more, he's staying out in the low ground of Illinois, about a 758-foot altitude, around there in Pugsleyville. And I know that must be quite an interesting place to live. Right, Doug?
Well, it's a little scary. I'm watching for foam on Pugsley's lips to form because I have no idea what he's been hanging around doing. But he's been hanging around with Texas politicians lately. So
Is he hiding any of those politicians out in your neighborhood?
Not in my neighborhood. If he's hiding them in my neighborhood, he's hiding them very well. This is a very rural area with a oak forest, and it's probably we'd never find them if they're out here. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a good time. We certainly did. That's apparent in the joy we take whenever we can put on one of these podcast episodes for you. And I hope you come back and join us again very, very soon. Bye-bye.